Hello and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason at Fort Defiance Park near Cairo, Illinois, just right at the southernmost point in Illinois. There's a lot of history here. Lewis and Clark made a stop here, not surprisingly. And also, this was also a Civil War site, and there's also the meeting of the two rivers, the Ohio and the Mississippi River. I am at the parking lot where, at the entrance. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you around here first, then we're actually gonna go down to the park. Here we go. So at one point there was a museum here, and that's what we're looking at right now. I don't know how long it's been closed, but I wish it were open. But I guess the state didn't want to keep it open. I don't know. That's just my guess. And then that is where US Highways 51, 60, and 62 go to Kentucky. The Ohio River Bridge, there's a marker here. Complete in 1938, and then it was a toll bridge until November 11th, 1948. And then the Ohio River Bridge was conceived and built in the public interest by the Cairo Bridge Commission with the cooperation of the Federal Emergency Administration of Public Works and the Highway Departments of Illinois and Kentucky. The bridge was operated and maintained by the Commission, and as a result of the untiring efforts of many public-spirited citizens, the Commission was able to repay all costs from tolls, and the Highway Departments of Illinois and Kentucky jointly accepted the bridge as a part of the state highway systems to be maintained as a toll-free facility. All right, and I'll tell you what's very interesting about this short stretch of highway from there to there. It is the shortest stretch of US highways going into a state. So US Highways 60 and 62, which are both major United States highways that go from different states, this is the shortest distance within one state. Yeah, it's very fascinating in my opinion as a road interest. There is even a sign over there that one time highlighted that, but it is faded, and unfortunately it has seen better days. Here, let me give you a little close-up of that. All right, so that's about as zoomed in as I can do it, and again, I'm sorry for the wind, but yeah, the sign's almost completely gone. But it does say on there Interstate 57 and Interstate 55, but this is the shortest route between two US highways in one state. Wow. All right, I'm going to take you to some more markers down that way, then we're going to go down to the park. This here can be found in many river road towns such as Cahokia, Quincy, and a few others, but this also talks more about the history and places to visit along Cairo and nearby river communities, but unfortunately the signs have completely faded and unreadable. Very sad. All right, so we're going to talk about this historical survey marker. The beginning of the third principal meridian is located in the Ohio River, 1,735 feet directly north of this point. In November 1803, this was the mouth of the Ohio River. At this location, the Lewis and Clark Corps Discovery encamped for 6 days. And then right here is some history about the Lewis and Clark Discovery. Now these two markers talk about the Trail of Tears, where the Native Americans, sadly on their way to unfortunate doom to Oklahoma, they literally passed through here. I hope to do a series on that sometime in the future. And then the Great River Road. And then this one talks a lot about Cairo, Illinois, the history of it. And then just down that way is the park. I want to say it's about 3/4 of a mile down, so it's not too far of a drive. All right, so here we are at the actual park, and that is a public restroom. The history, the historical markers, and the views are just up that way. And behind me is lots of open space to roam around, lots of parking. And people do camp here, apparently, or they let people camp here, but I don't know anybody who has. Of course, I don't mean nothing. But at one time, this was a state park. And then until the 1990s, when the city of Cairo took over, and then it lost its designation. But then in 2014, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources assumed control over this, and with a goal in mind of getting this back to state park status. So we're going to be going on that platform, going close to the rivers. And I've been wondering, what is that structure right there? It almost looks like a stage or a former building, but my research doesn't tell me anything. Or the internet rather, or anything. And there are some visitors here, so. But this is a picnic shelter. But you can also get a great view. I'll take you up there in a second. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and take you up this platform, so come with me. So there are actually two different levels where you can view this, meaning the confluence of the rivers. And I don't really know what this really served. I guess maybe as besides a shelter, but it has some doors where of course nobody can access. But let me see if I can do without that tree. Okay. All right, so you can't really see it, but this is a nice view of the confluence of the Ohio and Mississippi rivers, as well as the states of Kentucky, Illinois, and Missouri. Don't worry, we'll be going straight down there later in the video, but I'll take you to the top part. I am kind of curious as to what was in these rooms. Maybe they were restrooms. As you can see, somebody really knocked out the glass in that one. But let's see. I hope this gives us a much better view. All right. Well, if it wasn't for that tree being there. But yeah, definitely provides a nice view. Yeah, you can kind of see it. It's so cool. All right, now we're gonna go back down. But there is a historical marker just on that hole right there. So this one says the meeting of the rivers. Long known to the Indian who used the two great rivers as his highways for trade and war, this junction of the Ohio and the Mississippi was first sighted by Europeans when Marquette and Joliet glided past in 1673. 10 years later, LaSalle explored the area and established France's claim to the Mississippi Valley. From that time on, this confluence was recognized as a strategic site for settlement and fortification. George Rogers Clark, following the capture of Kaskaskia in 1778, stationed armed boats at this junction to guard against attacks in the Illinois country by the British or Spanish. Here in 1811, the New Orleans, first steamboat to navigate western waters, lay at anchor during the 3 nights of the New Madrid earthquake. In April of 1861, Fort Defiance was established at the confluence to thwart Confederate invasion and blockade the trade of the South. From here, launched General Grant's great flanking movement up the Cumberland and Tennessee rivers, which began at Fort Henry and ended at Vicksburg, giving the Union complete control of the Mississippi. So it doesn't say, but Pierre Laclede, who along with his stepson Auguste Choteau, founded St. Louis. But Laclede supposedly was here as he was making his way up Illinois country, which is of course what I'm standing on. So I'm going to go down these steps quite a bit as we move closer to the confluence of the great rivers. This here is a sculpture, and there's a marker that tells all about it. And this sculpture is called Proceeding On. In November 1803, Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, or Lewis and Clark rather, and their growing contingent of Corps Discovery men spent 5 days here teaching each other celestial navigation and surveying skills. Using a sextant, octant, artificial horizon, and reference tables, they successfully obtained the first longitude and latitude data that they would use during the expedition. Subsequent maps of the northern and western portions of the United States prepared using Lewis and Clark's data, beginning at the confluence of these great rivers, which in 1803 was located just south of 2nd Street in present-day Cairo. This sculpture, proceeding on, was designed and fabricated by Evert Biedler, Art and Graduate School at SIUC, or Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, and installed here in August 2005, or 2005, to commemorate Lewis and Clark's activities at this place. It also says here the Liberty of Congress grant helped make the sculpture and commemoration possible, with cooperation from Senator Richard Durbin, the City of Cairo, and a design advisory committee of residents Berlin Jones, Luis Ogg, Sandra Tarver, and SIUC staff Donna Bachman, Joanna Johnson, David Koch, and Robert Swenson. So yeah, pretty cool. And now for the fun parts, where right now I am looking at 3 different United States: Kentucky, Illinois, where I'm standing on, and Missouri. And then we have 2 rivers, 2 major United States rivers, the Ohio and the Mississippi. And then this is where the Ohio flows into the Mississippi, where it goes, of course, all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. But this is the ending or beginning of Ohio River as it goes toward the metropolis, Paducah, Evansville, Indiana, Cincinnati, among many others. And now we are going to go towards the southern tip. And this, by the way, is the lowest point in Illinois. And we are going to go towards literally the southern tip of Illinois. So one thing you got to watch out for are these rocks, because obviously they are uneven. And then you get a little bit of sidewalk. Now sometimes the water can rise all the way up to here. This is my 4th time being here. I mean, it's a nice peaceful place. You gotta love it. And I'm assuming it's safe because there is somebody down there. All right, so I made my way to the beach, I guess that's what you want to call it, going down that hill. And then I'm going to go to the actual southern tip of Illinois. It could go either way because, like I said, this could be underwater at some point in time, but the water levels are very low this time of the year. This is October. And yes, it's very muddy. I mean, I've heard reports of quicksand whenever you go near these rivers, so definitely be very careful. But this is about as far as I'm going to go, so I don't want to get myself any muddy than I already am. But yes, I am literally standing at the southernmost point in Illinois, and also the lowest elevation. Ironically, the highest elevation is just not too far from the northern border, like around Wisconsin and Illinois. But Illinois has always been somewhat of a flat state. But again, this is where the Ohio and the Mississippi rivers meet up. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a little view of behind me. Okay, that bridge is US 60, US 51, and 62 that carries 3 US highways into Kentucky. And that, of course, is a boat, the Pierre Marquette transportation boat. And then that is US 60 and US 62. That takes you to Missouri. Now you can't see it probably because of that barge or that boat up there, but Interstate 57, which is probably about 2 or 3 miles north of here, that also crosses over the Mississippi River into Missouri as it goes around Cairo. All right, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Historically Marked. Hope you learned a little bit about some history here, and hope you take the time to come down here sometime, because it is peaceful for what it is. So I am Jason, sign off.